Olivia folded the sweater Chris lent to her in Paris, her thoughts flashing against her will to what he looked like wearing it, and how good it smelled when she first put it on. It had been so comforting at the time, like the security and protection he provided were woven into something soft and roomy that he wrapped around her. She lingered on the thought, feeling momentarily warmed in her cold room by the memory. She shook off those feelings. Things with Chris are such a mess right now, she thought, and it's all his fault. She put his sweater into a bag, ready to give it back. Olivia rubbed her arms at the chilly air in her home, thinking she needed to find something else to throw on instead. She'd been layering thin, inadequate clothes for the last couple of months as the weather grew colder, because she'd been so busy. She opened her closet, which had overflowed with clothes in the years since she reunited with her dad and finally had money to spend. But she still spent so much time standing before it, wishing for that one additional perfect thing to wear. And it was similarly lacking in this moment. Her best winter clothes had holes or tears, or were a regretful, ultra-trendy choice from previous years that now looked ridiculous. She spent a few minutes pulling things out of her closet and throwing them into piles to mend or donate, but kept thinking about Chris's sweater and how she needed something just like it for her closet. It was so frustrating that she didn't have that. Why am I so upset about my cold weather clothing options? Olivia wondered to herself, chewing a nail. I just haven't had time to shop for the season yet. She decided. Life had been so crazy that she needed to refresh her options for cold weather and just hadn't made it out. She had a free afternoon, she was feeling cooped up, and she thought this would be the perfect time to go do something about it and get some shopping done. Olivia cast a glance at the bag where she had just put Chris's sweater. It's just about the clothes, she thought to herself. I don't have the options I need. It's this closet. My frustration right now has nothing to do with Chris. Wow, am I hearing myself? Thinking so blatantly that it has nothing to do with Chris is making it seem like it's really about Chris. Shut up, me. It's just about the clothes. Obviously. Olivia pulled on her shoes, trying to force herself to stop thinking. She walked downstairs and hurried to the front of Michael's home. She took out her key and opened his door. She peered out into the dark foyer, not seeing or hearing her dog Polly. It wasn't like her to fail to hear Olivia coming and be waiting for her right at the door. Olivia called out into the darkness with a tinge of nervousness in her voice. Polly? Polly? Olivia heard Polly scramble to her feet in a nearby room and smiled in relief. Polly must have been in a deep sleep. Polly barked happily and ran to Olivia, slipping and righting herself several times on the hardwood floor. Olivia scratched behind Polly's ears and pet her thick, gorgeous coat as Polly pranced side to side. Olivia noted that Polly's husky fur was perfectly suited for the New York snow. At least one of us is dressed right for the winter, Olivia mused. Olivia kneeled in front of Polly. Do you want to go on a... Olivia paused, and Polly tilted her head, curious. Walk? Hearing one of her favorite words, Polly briefly froze with the overwhelming good news that she was about to go outside, then slipped and scrambled her way to the front door. She sat below the doorknob with a bark. Olivia laughed, brimming with love for her dog. She's just the best, Olivia thought. I know everyone thinks their dog is perfect, but mine is extra perfect. That's just the truth. Olivia clipped on Polly's leash, and they stepped out onto the street together. Polly was on a mission, leading Olivia on her normal route as she briefly stopped at trees, mailboxes, and building corners to check out the new smells since the last time she had been out. Olivia steered Polly toward the area where she planned to shop for clothes. They passed a row of street vendors with a ton of people standing around eating, and Olivia internally groaned, knowing she was about to enter a gauntlet. Polly immediately found the end of a hot dog to eat off the sidewalk before Olivia could stop her. A few seconds later, they were stopped by a group of young friends who exclaimed about how Polly was the most beautiful husky they had ever seen. Just after that, Olivia had managed to take a couple of steps when a sweet older couple wanted to greet Polly as well. They were stopped every couple of feet as Olivia tried to motivate Polly to keep walking and ignore the food, But everyone wanted to pet Polly, ask questions about her, and feed her French fries, pieces of popcorn, and bits of chicken skewers. Polly was in heaven. After the first couple of offers of food, Olivia started politely declining, but Polly grew overexcited as she ate all the snacks and smelled so many more around her. Olivia finally hurried to the end of the row of vendors and turned onto a small, narrow street without any pedestrians. She caught her breath while Polly panted, looking back in the direction where they came, her big eyes filled with longing. She felt in her little dog brain like she'd never wanted anything as badly as she wanted to return to sniff for crumbs on the ground and enjoy attention from the crowd of strangers who wanted to keep feeding her. Olivia noticed a splotch of red on Polly's forehead. "Oh no, are you hurt?" As she leaned down, she realized it was ketchup. "Ew, no, somebody dripped ketchup on you. Ugh." She pulled a tissue out of her purse and wiped the condiment off her dog. "When I first got you, you were so malnourished," Olivia reminisced to her. "Now look at you, full of hot dogs, popcorn, and organic dog food we keep in the fridge." Olivia, preoccupied, didn't notice a pair of middle-aged men approaching until they were a couple of feet away. "Wow, what a gorgeous pup," one of the men said, startling Olivia. Thanks," she responded cautiously, trying to give them the cold shoulder. "How much do you want for her? Name your price," the other man said. "She's not for sale." Olivia shook her head and stood, alarm bells ringing in her head. These men were definitely acting strange. They seemed up to something. Greed flashed in one of the men's eyes as he shoved his hands in his pockets. "There's always a price. Anything is technically for sale. You just haven't heard the right number yet." "Bye, this is over. Keep walking." Olivia tried to leave them in the opposite direction, but Polly stood her ground and stared at the men, evidently picking up the same dangerous vibes that Olivia had. The men acted offended. "We're just trying to talk to you. We're nice guys. We just noticed that purebred Husky's features are especially fine, and she's very well behaved." 10,000. His friend stepped in. "For one dog, come on, sweetheart, you're just a kid. How are you going to say no to that? That could buy you a lot of clothes and makeup." The men took an ominous step toward her. Olivia gritted her teeth. No means no. I thought even street harassers knew that now. "Do you not know what's good for you? Are you stupid, girl? 15,000. That's the highest we can go." Olivia considered using her powers to do away with these men, temporarily or permanently. "I don't know what kind of scam you're pulling, but get away from me now, I'm warning you." One of the men raised his hands at the look on Olivia's face. "If you don't want to sell it, don't sell it. I don't know what you're all bent out of shape about." Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a man and two small children eating popsicles from a vendor at the end of the street. One of the kids was staring right at Olivia and everything that was happening, her popsicle dripping onto her hand. This father must have been thinking the same thing Olivia had when she walked this way. He had been looking for a quiet place for his kids to eat. Olivia cursed to herself. She shouldn't do anything to these men while these poor kids watched. Olivia was determined to come up with another idea. And unfortunately, the men didn't look like they were truly about to give up. Olivia saw them give each other a sinister glance, so she tuned her mind to their thoughts. "This chick's gonna make it hard. We'll just have to snatch the dog," one man thought, assessing Polly's position in relation to himself. "It looks like a heavy one, but the car isn't too far away." "You're forcing us to get violent, kid. I don't want to hurt a little girl to get what we need, but it wouldn't be the first time." So both of them were ready to do something terrible. Those kids eating popsicles were going to see something violent no matter what. That was it. She would just have to strike first and hope these kids weren't looking. But then Olivia got another idea. Another option came to her. She suddenly changed her demeanor completely, putting on a casual, unaffected voice. "I'm not selling her, but feel free to pet her. She's the sweetest." The men bent down and began to praise Polly with very over-the-top admiration. They reached for Polly, but she nimbly dodged, still suspicious of them. The men's faces twisted in irritation. At that moment, Olivia let go of the leash. Polly, realizing she was free, immediately hurried away from the men and back toward the street full of snacks, which she felt had possibly been the location of the high point of her life. Olivia pretended to be surprised, shouted loudly, "Oh no, my dog!" "Don't worry," one of the men responded. "We'll help you get it back." The two men ran after Polly, and Olivia hurried after them, smiling. Polly slowed down as she reached the people standing around eating and dropping bits of their food. She ate an abandoned curly fry as the men caught up to her easily, picking up her leash. They smiled at each other. This was too easy. The dog would fetch a great price. The men glanced around, not seeing Olivia yet. One of the men held Polly's leash tight, and they stepped toward the other side of the street, hoping to shake Olivia off their tail. They didn't see her pursuing them, but knew they had no time to waste. But Polly planted her feet, whimpering. The man tried to pull Polly along with them, but wasn't able to. "This damn dog is really strong, my God!" The man started to panic, angry. "Let's go, dog, come on!" "Hurry up, man, we have to go!" His companion glanced around, nervous. The man snapped, annoyed. "I know we have to go, that's why I'm trying to go." "It's like 100 pounds, man, just pick it up." "You pick it up, you know about my back." The two men kept bickering while they glanced around, still not seeing Olivia pursuing them. "Come on, you stupid dog, hurry, just go." The man holding the leash lifted a foot and reared back, preparing to kick Polly to get her to move. "Hey, stop that right now! What are you doing?" A bystander called to the two men trying to dog-nap Polly. Since Polly wasn't cooperating and refused to go where they wanted her to, one of the men raised his foot, reared it back, and threatened to kick Polly to get her to move. A woman saw this and called out to them, causing the man to chicken out from his kick and set his foot back down for the time being. Many people all around stopped and turned to them watching. "I'm disciplining my dog. Do you think you could mind your own damn business?" The man was impatient with this mix-up in their plans. It was supposed to be so easy, stealing a dog from a child. "That's right, it's our dog. It's our business what happens to it. It has nothing to do with you. Get lost. What are you looking at? Buzz off." The other man waved his hands at the growing crowd around them, trying to shoo them away. This was exactly the kind of attention they didn't need at the moment. "You can't kick a dog. That's illegal," another person said. "What? No way. It's my dog," one dog napper protested, incredulous. "I think it is now, at least in some places," somebody else chimed in. "I want to say it's illegal here." "But it's my property," the dog napper fired back. "He or she is a living being and she has rights," a woman cried to nods from other bystanders. The concerned people around the two men were uncertain about how to proceed, believing that these two men owned Polly, wanting to step in, but not knowing what power they had in the situation. At that moment, Polly whimpered, searching the faces around her for Olivia. The worried people in the crowd felt their hearts melt even more for Polly. Polly raised her head and howled mournfully. "You don't actually care about this dog," one of the dog nappers spat at the crowd, knowing that Polly's cuteness and excellent timing were working against him. "Buy it from me if you feel so righteous about how to treat it. It costs $50,000. $50,000? Someone in the crowd exclaimed. The dog napper yelled back indignantly. "Yeah, 50,000. It's a purebred Siberian Husky and has a very rare coloring in its coat that raises the price." "Are you kidding? How much did you pay for the dog?" a young man called out, confused. "I paid a ton for it from a top breeder, and then I trained it." The middle-aged dog napper tried to pull Polly into moving again, since the crowd was distracted by the conversation, but she still stubbornly stayed put. "That's still an insane amount of money for a dog," the man continued. And I hate that you're calling them it. Get lost, idiot. How about that? The man started to try to drag Polly with all his might. Come with me, dog. If you don't, I'll beat you to death. Hey, that's too far, the young man shouted. I won't stand by and watch you threaten an animal like that. It's my dog. I'll do whatever I want, the dog napper shouted back. Wait, that's not your dog. A vendor of shawarma cart called out toward them. That dog was with a high school girl a minute ago. Someone got some unseasoned chicken from me to feed it. Hey, and I fed that dog French fries. A woman chimed in. That isn't your dog. It was that girl's. That means... Thief! Dog thief! A voice cried out. The crowd erupted into action. They'd been itching to do something about this situation since the back and forth began. They closed in on the two men and Polly. No, you don't understand. We have an explanation. The two men sputtered, watching everyone come closer to them. We were trying to find the girl. We found the dog alone. We were helping. No. Polly barked and howled. The man holding her leash was so distracted by the crowd and panicky that he loosened his grip. Polly pulled away from him and the leash slipped out of his hand. Polly tore through the tangle of legs in the crowd, which did its best to part for her to escape. Polly hurried up to Olivia a short distance away. Olivia was watching everything unfold with satisfaction, just as she had planned for it to. It was actually even easier than she thought to sabotage the thieves, since these men were such bad liars and obviously terrible people. But of course, the same kind of lowlifes who would steal a dog would also threaten to be violent with him in front of a crowd of witnesses. The dog nappers gestured to Olivia and Polly. That's her. We were trying to find her and get her dog back to her. She let it run away. Girl, hurry up and tell them that we helped you find your dog. They were so flustered and panicked that their faces turned red. They had been in this line of work for several years, but this was the first time they had been discovered and surrounded. Normally, things went off without a hitch. They felt like they could tell the crowd was out for blood and just wanted to buy themselves any precious seconds or any benefit of the doubt that they could. Me? Olivia said innocently. You must be mistaken. I'm the girl whose dog you just stole after I turned down the money you offered me for her. What? No, she's lying. How could you lie like this? The men tried to save face, surprised at Olivia's cool attitude in the situation. They also weren't used to the idea that a teenager could remain so calm and composed in a big altercation in front of a ton of adults. The crowd's attention ping-ponged between the men and Olivia. She asked us to help look for the dog. We think that maybe she stole the dog from somebody else. Yeah, she's the real dog thief. Get her. Oh, is that right? That sounds very believable, guys. Good job. Olivia asked with the same tone as a babysitter who was just told by a child that they always get to eat ice cream for dinner. You little wench. The man took steps to charge toward Olivia, but as he leaned forward, she concentrated, using her powers to pull his foot up behind him into the air and hold his wrist up as well so he couldn't catch himself. His chin hit the cement sidewalk, and his teeth each hit each other with a sickening crack. What happened? The other dog napper yelled as he looked down at his accomplice, bewildered. I fell, you damn idiot. His companion angrily moaned in pain. Get that little piece of... He passed out as blood oozed from his chin and mouth onto the concrete. The remaining dog napper raised his fist to lunge toward Olivia, but several people in the crowd grabbed onto his arms and torso, stopping him. She's a child, don't you dare! Get off me, I'm going! He was able to shirk off the grips of the people in the crowd and started sprinting in the other direction, toward the main drag of vendors. As he ran away, Olivia eyed the cart selling French fries, when the man looked back towards her and made an offensive gesture. She used her power to make the cart roll a few feet into his path. He turned back to see the obstacle now in his way too late, falling onto it, his hands landing right in a deep fryer as he and the whole cart toppled over, spilling boiling oil all over him as he screamed. Olivia tried to fix a concerned look on her face, but she decided it was time for her and Polly to leave the gruesome scene. Polly leaned against Olivia's legs, grateful to be reunited with her. "Let's go, Polly." Olivia rounded a corner and passed two police officers leaving a coffee shop. She called out to them. "There's a fight happening by the food vendors that way. I heard somebody say these guys tried to steal a dog." The officers nodded, hurrying off to investigate. Olivia shook her head. What she did to those dog thieves was taking it pretty far. But it sounded like they had done some truly terrible things to dogs and other girls before. Polly tried to lead Olivia to the left of the sidewalk, where a woman was eating an ice cream cone. Olivia looked at Polly in surprise. "Are you serious? You're still hungry?" Olivia finally arrived at a street with the store she intended to visit all along. She spotted a window display of impeccably designed sweaters that would make her forget all about wearing Chris's in Paris. She stood in the doorway to the store and flagged down an employee. "Hello?" she called to them. "Is it okay if I bring my dog inside?" The man gasped. "Yes. You're not supposed to, and normally I don't let people. But I would let that beautiful dog go anywhere." Olivia laughed, and Polly happily approached the man with her tongue lolling out. He crouched down to her and she nuzzled him, enjoying his pets and attention. "Oh my God, she is the sweetest. Look at you. I love you," he said as she rolled on her back. He rubbed her belly as she stretched her legs out in either direction. The man was extra helpful to Olivia, offering help navigating their inventory and giving her advice about how to care for which kinds of sweaters. Olivia left the store soon after with a couple of great pieces she got to buy at the man's employee discount. He waved after them, looking heartbroken to see Polly go. "I'm in love with her." His coworker walked up to him. She wrinkled her nose, watching Olivia leave. "Forget about the dog. Wasn't that Olivia Johnson?" "Wait, Olivia Johnson from all those news stories the last few days?" "Yeah, that definitely looked like her." They leaned their heads together as the woman searched online for pictures of Olivia, and the man's jaw dropped. "You're right. That was totally her. I was so obsessed with her dog I didn't even notice. I thought she and her family were supposed to be crazy. She seemed normal." Her coworker nodded as they looked back out the door where Olivia disappeared. As Olivia reached the last blocks on the way back home, it started to snow again. The first few light flakes floated down. Polly noticed too. As she looked up and smelled the air, a snowflake landed on the tip of her nose. Olivia laughed as Polly pulled at her nose, wanting to remove the weird tickling sensation. Olivia's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and saw an unfamiliar London area phone number. She frowned, dreading who this could be. She answered, "Hello? Do you have some time right now? I need to talk to you." The voice on the other end of the phone was deep and deceptively soothing. It was neither fast nor slow, but a pleasant, confident sort of drawl. Her uncle, Bruno Johnson. Olivia's face filled with disgust. "Oh, what does he want?" she thought internally. "What's there to talk about with you, Bruno?" "Just think of it like a little family gathering. It's normal for families to get together and catch up once in a while. I'll treat you to a meal. We barely got to speak in Paris." This is so weird, Olivia thought, flabbergasted. "If you want a family reunion, should I bring my dad? Maybe Grandpa? And we can bring Rachel too. But we should decide if she's coming as your sister-in-law or your plus one." Olivia smirked at the silence on the other end of the line. She knew how to hit Bruno where it hurt. But she also knew that she needed to keep him off balance, because he was definitely up to something devious. When Bruno heard Olivia's mocking words in response to his dinner invitation, he gritted his teeth to keep himself from flying off the handle. He glanced at his father, Jack Johnson, who sat across from him in Jack's over-the-top study. Jack leaned back in a plush mahogany leather chair at an enormous, ornately carved dark wooden desk, surrounded by bookshelves that rose up 20 feet to the ceiling. Many shelves were filled with awards from the business world and recognition for his cynical, strategically face-saving philanthropic efforts. Framed pictures with celebrities and important world figures filled other shelves. A glass of scotch sat in front of him. Jack tapped a finger against the side of the glass rhythmically, like the ticking of a clock. Bruno sat in one of the small visitors' chairs across from Jack and was determined to remain calm and appear in control to his father. He knew Jack wouldn't approve of Bruno letting his anger get the best of him with Olivia. Bruno thought internally that yelling is for keeping employees and business associates in line. He's always said that we need to treat Olivia like family for some reason. Bruno took a deep breath instead of voicing all of the angry thoughts he had toward Olivia, restraining himself. He forced himself to laugh in response to Olivia's mocking comment about his romantic history with Rachel, trying to sound lighthearted, but it came off robotic and insincere. Olivia, we are all a family. Let's just put all of this drama behind us. I want to solve this privately in a way that satisfies you. There's really no need to take our dirty laundry public and be so messy. Messy? Olivia laughed a real laugh, finding his weak attempt at forging a connection funny. You think I took our dirty laundry public? Uncle Bruno, when all of this started, you and I were both in Paris. Then when we got back to New York, it fell to me to clean up this mess for everybody. Do you not remember that we were in another country? Should we have your memory evaluated? The thin dam Bruno had built to hold in his anger burst. Even if Rachel and Monica were making a mistake, you don't have to slander them on the internet. They are your family and incredible women who deserve your respect. Olivia rolled her eyes, laughing again. Bruno, you think I have time to go on the internet and write things about them? I have been so busy running my company that I haven't even given them a second thought lately. I think that you see them as more important than they actually are. Jack watched Bruno's face, which gave away that Olivia's response caught him off guard. Jack shook his head, and Bruno knew he had to fix this. But Bruno's breath caught in his throat. He knew that Rachel and Monica deliberately stirred up these stories and made everything public. They wanted to cause drama, and they got it. But behind his anger was something deeper, a longing for Rachel that had burned inside him for years. He couldn't have Rachel because she wanted Michael, but Michael had the gall to reject her. What a shame. What a waste of an incredible woman. Bruno's heart raged with jealousy and unfulfilled desire. With a long pause, Jack looked like he wanted to grab the phone from Bruno, who was paralyzed with indecision. Bruno, there's no but. Olivia was impatient with him and feeling done with this bizarre conversation. If there's nothing else you need to discuss, we can hang up now. I have work to get back to. I know you make all of your money off using other people. I don't know why you want to spend any of your previous time trying to make nice with a simpleton like me who earns a living. Bruno was stunned. He knew that Olivia already knew about his plan with Jack Johnson, but his heart skipped a beat. Did Michael know too? Sick of waiting for his son to handle this, Jack angrily shot to his feet and ripped the cell phone from Bruno's hand. Give me the phone. He put the phone to his ear. Olivia, this is your grandfather. But there was no response. Jack looked at the screen of the phone. She hung up, he said in disbelief. That insolent little... Jack stifled the words he wanted to say. She dared to hang up on me, that child. I'm her elder. If I ever hung up on my grandfather, I'd have been beaten bloody. Bruno let out a long sigh. We have another avenue, Dad. Let's just cut straight to the other plan. The other plan cost me $500 million. Jack threw the phone back at Bruno, who bobbled it and barely caught it. Bruno tried to placate Jack, hoping to curb his rage. Pete Pell's side is almost done. My conservative estimate is that we can reduce the cost to $200 million. If I throw this stall directly to Michael... Your brother is worse than the mud on the bottom of my boots. That ungrateful traitor married a filthy wife and gave birth to a traitorous granddaughter and another granddaughter who's an idiot. The only hope this family has for its future is Edward. He reminds me of a young you." Bruno was surprised and touched to hear his father compare someone favorably to him. He wanted to fix the way his dad felt, but a small part of him was grateful that the chaos boosted his image in his father's eyes. Then Bruno remembered what had struck him the hardest during his conversation with Olivia. "Dad, I suspect that Michael already knows about our misappropriation of public funds." "He already knew besides, so what if he knew?" Jack snorted, still angrily ranting. "That insolent betrayer is my son. I raised him for his whole life and he won't even do anything I ask. He still dares to go against the things I ask him to do. I've been chairman of this family for decades. I'm the only one thinking of our overall standing. I built and maintained the reputation of the Johnson family, and he's happy to piss it all away." Bruno didn't know how to respond. Jack snapped. "No. Give Olivia another call. Call her on speaker. I'll tell her all this myself." Bruno cleared his throat, nervous about having failed this task so badly that his father wanted to do it himself. "Are you sure you have thoughts on how to—" "Of course I have thoughts. Make the damn call," Jack insisted. Bruno cowed, dialed Olivia's number, and turned on the speaker. The two of them listened tensely as the line rang twice, then went to voicemail. Jack roared in anger. "What's this? She was just there. We know she's there." "She is there. She just rejected my call for some reason." "How dare she reject us? The nerve on that child. Try her again." Jack ordered Bruno with a wave of his hand. Bruno set his jaw and complied, pressing Olivia's number as his father asked. This time it was one ring, then Olivia's voicemail. "Did she just reject us even faster? What the hell?" Bruno meekly tried to diffuse his father's ire. "She may be on the other line. She's insolent, disrespectful, disloyal. How dare she hang up on her family without even bothering to say anything first? Maybe she is—" Bruno began to offer another explanation he hoped would be soothing and put this moment behind them. But Jack interrupted him by slapping his hand down onto his enormous desk. "She knows that you are calling about matters related to the Johnson family. Her family. Or so I thought. But her family is not even worth giving voice to her rejection outright. This foolish, out-of-control girl, this generation." Jack ranted, breathing heavily. Bruno closed his eyes to his father's tirade, gently butting in. "Dad, you're hard." "Dad, you're hard." Jack mocked Bruno. "Nuts to my heart, Bruno." He spat with a swift wave of his hand, but he did calm down a bit. Emboldened by Jack's downward shift in volume, Bruno continued. "It's not worth it to get your blood pressure up this high. She's not worth it. We will figure out what to do." "Yes, we will." Jack's anger turned to something darker. He was plotting, trying to decide how to proceed from this moment in a way that would be best for his business and his ego. "Tomorrow," he said finally. "Tomorrow I will go and find her myself. I will dare her to act so arrogant and defiant face to face with me." "Excellent plan, Dad." Bruno was eager to pounce on the promise of any forward motion out of this conversation and to make his dad feel better. "I can come with you to dare her to act so arrogant face to face with me as well." Jack blinked, staring Bruno down. He felt irritated, partly at Bruno clearly kissing up to him, and partly at his son not having any ideas of his own. But Bruno was the best he had for now. "Sounds good, son," was all he replied. "I'll see you then." Jack swallowed the rest of his scotch. Outside the study, the hallway was dark. Monica stood next to the slightly ajar door and was eavesdropping. She had heard the whole conversation, and her eyes lit up with excitement. "This is great," she thought internally. "Mommy is right. Grandfather is really going to make a move. Take that, Olivia." Monica was almost giddy with anticipation. She's definitely going to die this time. Monica turned around and was about to leave when she found herself looking across the hall at someone. She squinted into the low light, unsure of exactly who it was, until she realized she was looking at her brother, Edward Johnson. His cold face held only disdain for her. "Edward?" Monica breathed. She was startled. She walked a few steps toward him, trying to get away from the study doors so her grandfather and uncle wouldn't know she had been outside listening to them. "Edward, what are you doing here? I didn't know you were back." Edward said nothing. He glared at her, his eyes like daggers of ice. Monica looked back to the study door, worried. "Oh, crap," she thought. "Does he know I was listening in on Uncle Bruno and Grandpa Jack? Would he tell them? Quick, I need to come up with something believable." She tried to act casual. "I wasn't listening in on Grandfather's study. I was just walking by. How about you? What are you doing here?" Edward simply frowned and turned away from Monica. He left her standing alone in the darkness in the hallway. Once the fear and surprise of Edward discovering her had passed, Monica felt angry that he made her feel that way at all. "Why does he think he's better than me?" she thought to herself. "I've been an apprentice of Chef Mario Vincenzo, too." Monica stomped down the hall and upstairs to her bedroom. She slammed the door and fell face first onto her bed, the voluminous comforter billowing around her. She stewed for another moment about Edward's arrogance, and then remembered she had heard that Grandpa Jack was going to personally find Olivia the next day, and hopefully yell at her until she cried and apologized. Monica was soothed by picturing Olivia getting told off by her grandfather, hopefully somewhere out in public, or in her company's office. Monica drifted to thoughts of how, once she finally graduated, she could study somewhere abroad, with great clubs and high society people who threw great parties. The boys would have hot accents, and she would look exotic and mysterious to everyone there. She would wear incredible clothes and drink incredible drinks on gorgeous beaches and in ancient castles. Once she had lived for a few years this way and returned to New York to live her exciting adult life, she wouldn't even think about Olivia. Everyone else would have forgotten her too, because she'd be long dead. Olivia hung up on Bruno, and unbeknownst to her, Grandpa Jack, with a look of disgust on her face. She held Polly's leash as Polly sat dutifully beside her in the light dusting of snow, waiting for Olivia to be ready to resume walking. The nerve of him to tell me not to air our dirty laundry in public, Olivia thought to herself. I am not the one who made it public. His beloved Rachel did. Her phone buzzed with an incoming call and she checked the screen. Uncle Bruno was calling her back to try to continue the conversation. She rolled her eyes and declined the call. Nothing good would come of speaking to him anymore on this. He was just looking out for the family business's stock price, and she wasn't interested in complying with whatever he wanted. Olivia let herself and Polly into Michael's apartment, removing Polly's leash. Polly ran to her food bowl and nudged it with her nose. Olivia laughed. I know. Though how you're still hungry after getting all that food from those strangers is a mystery. Olivia fed Polly her dinner, gave her some scratches, and Polly pressed her forehead against Olivia's legs for a beat. Olivia was about to say goodbye, but when she heard Polly whine, Olivia looked back in her direction, alarmed, and saw that Polly was looking up at the cabinet where her treats were kept. Olivia had to laugh again. Are you kidding me? You should be studied by science. Is your stomach a black hole? Olivia put Polly's treats in a toy that would occupy and stimulate her while she got the food she was endlessly excited about. There, you gotta work for it, Olivia said as she tossed the toy to Polly, who happily dug into her task on the floor. Olivia left Polly and locked the door behind her, heading upstairs where she found her mom sipping an evening tea. Snow had begun to fall more thickly outside, and between that, the decorations her mom put up, and the Christmas music playing cheerfully from the audio, Olivia felt warm and nostalgic. It was Christmas Eve, but her mom had spent the morning at work, eager to catch up after being away from the office for so long. The delicious smell of an incredible Christmas Eve dinner greeted Olivia as she took in the scene. Ever since Olivia's press conference, where she presented her and her mom's side of the story with Rachel and Monica, Victoria had been able to return to work as normal. She knew that there were some coworkers who must be thinking and muttering about the rumors of Victoria's difficult relationships with Michael and Rachel, but she didn't feel any open hostility coming her way anymore. She figured it would be best for her to just grin and bear it so that she could get on with her life. She fortunately had plenty of allies in her office who didn't believe that she was a jealous, romantically spurned arsonist anyway. Nate Evans always did his best to arrange for Victoria's contact with other departments to be minimal, to save her from any potential awkwardness or probing questions. Victoria looked up from her tea. "Where did you go, Olivia? Dinner's just about ready." "I went to buy clothes," Olivia replied, holding up the shopping bag with her 2 new sweaters. "Merry Christmas to me." "Oh, I'm happy you did something to treat yourself. You took Polly too, right? I went to check on her when I got home." Olivia nodded. "We had kind of an adventure together." Victoria's eyes widened in alarm at the tone of Olivia's voice. "Uh-oh, that doesn't sound like it was a positive adventure." Olivia relayed to her mom everything that had happened with the attempted dog napping. Victoria was rapt. "I can't believe something like that happened in broad daylight. And I know it's horrible at any time of year, but I can't believe they do it at Christmas time." "Yeah," Olivia agreed. "And ironically, after having such a dramatic experience with all those food vendors involved, I didn't eat anything at all. I'm starving." "Of course you are. Wow, what a harrowing day. Your dad is supposed to join us. Why don't we call him and see where he is?" Victoria was interrupted by the door opening and Michael's booming voice filling the air, doing a goofy Santa impression. "Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas Eve!" Olivia smiled. "Dad, you're here. We were just about to call. Are you ready to eat?" "I'm famished," Michael said. His cheerful mood couldn't cover the tiredness evident on his face. Although Olivia had solved some of the issues with the firestorm of rumors as far as Confluence Technologies were concerned, Michael still had a lot of work to do and was in the office all day. Their stock price and confidence in their company had taken a huge hit as the Johnson family's public image became unstable. Olivia bounded into the dining room. "Dad and I will set the table," she said, eager to catch up on his workday. Victoria smiled and headed into the kitchen as Michael followed Olivia. "How was Confluence today? Must have been pretty quiet, being Christmas Eve and everything. I hope there weren't too many fires to put out." "Wow, that was a terrible choice of words," Olivia said as she took glasses and silverware out of the dining room's built-in cabinets. "It was all right," Michael answered evasively. He wasn't eager to discuss the negatives of their current situation. "Hey, how have you and Chris Jones been getting along recently?" We're all right," Olivia said, equally evasive. "You know, he's Chris." Michael smiled knowingly, busying himself setting places. "He's a good guy. I can tell he likes you a lot. But marriage is, ideally, forever. I hope you won't rush into anything just because of what your family wants. It's more important to me than anything that you are happy." Olivia was surprised to hear her dad speak like this. Her heart warmed with not only what he said, but how different this man was from the Michael she knew in her previous life. The comparison was truly striking. She couldn't believe that he not only loved her, which was a new experience in itself, but that she was a bigger priority to him than even the reputation of the Johnson family name. Olivia felt proud that she had set out to change her fate with her dad for the better, and she had done it far more effectively than she had ever imagined was possible. "Oh, by the way," Michael added, changing the subject, "I tried to play that damn game, but I don't think I understand it." "What damn game?" Olivia rarely heard her dad swear and could not imagine what he was talking about. "A competitor of theirs?" Michael searched his memory, struggling to find the right words. "The Crypt Keeper, no, the Grudge, you know." Olivia laughed. "Grudge Keeper, the Siege of the Damned? Dad, that's our huge new release. You should know what it's called. Michael was sheepish. I know, that's why I tried to play it. But I don't understand how anyone can sit there and play it for so long. I think I'm too old for it. Plenty of people older than you play computer games and video games. Do you want me to walk you through some of the early stuff? Michael sighed. I guess I can give it another shot. Yes! Olivia was excited. She hurried out of the room and brought back her laptop and a mouse. But this won't make me a nerd, right? Michael joked. I have a reputation to uphold. Dad, nerd culture is mainstream now. You should be embarrassed you're not a nerd. Olivia responded lightheartedly. She booted up the beta version of the game that she used to test its progress. She and Michael sat at the part of the table that was still empty. Okay, the first thing you have to do is pick a character. And the biggest choice is whether you want to be a character who solves problems head-on with your strength or be sneaky and strategic. All right. Michael thought for a moment. I think I want to be the strong guy. Olivia laughed. Nice choice, Dad. I didn't think you had it in you. It's a game. I get to be someone that isn't like me, he said, bashful. All right, my guy is in a forest. It says I'm trying to get to a castle and I'm hearing scary noises. Yeah, creepy, right? Olivia was proud of the game's beautiful design. Her team really made a classic horror concept beautiful. Maybe too creepy. I've never liked scary movies, Michael said, concerned. Think of it as an action hero thing, Olivia offered. You walk around with the W, A, S, and D keys. Oh, that would have been helpful to know earlier. Dad, you didn't even figure out how to walk? You own a game company. I used to play on video game systems. This is all new to me. Dad. Olivia shook her head, laughing, as Michael used the keys to walk around. Oh, and be careful. Lena set up her first monsters around here. Just as Olivia got that sentence out, Michael's character was attacked by a tree that seemed to come to life. Ah! Michael yelled. Click to attack! Click to attack! Olivia yelled over him, but it was too late. His character died. Dang, how many lives do I get? Michael asked. None, Olivia said reluctantly. But that's kind of part of it. Try again, trust me. Michael was back at the character selection screen. I guess I'll go with the sneaky guy this time. Michael began again, walking more slowly with his character, keeping to the shadows and out of the moonlight. Instead of being attacked, he was surprised to see the character he just played stalking around. Wait, is that my last character? The one who just died? Yeah, since you died, he's a zombie now. You have to avoid him or kill him before he gets you. Michael successfully snuck up on the zombie and attacked when its back was still turned, killing it with one swift stab to the brain. Yes, Dad, great job. Olivia smiled, truly proud of him. Michael laughed. Oh, and it says I found evidence number 1 on his body. That's neat. Victoria entered the room, carrying a dish full of hot food. Are you two still not done with the table? Are you playing games? We're working, Olivia said with a grin. And I'm just getting the hang of it, Michael said, reluctant to close the laptop, but he did. Olivia and Michael hurried to finish setting the table and help Victoria bring in all of the beautiful food she'd made for them. The warmth in Olivia's heart only grew at enjoying the holiday meal with their parents as they all laughed together. She felt so happy. Michael finished eating first, much more quickly than he usually did. He took his plate into the kitchen, cleared all the dishes of leftover food, and loaded the dishwasher before Olivia and Victoria were even finished eating. Olivia eyed Michael curiously as he opened the laptop and got back into the game in the living room, completely absorbed. Olivia wished her parents a Merry Christmas Eve and good night, staying up to read a bit and falling asleep with her book on her. She awoke a few hours later, thirsty. She stepped gingerly past the living room on her way to get some water and was shocked to see her dad still up on her laptop playing Grudge Keeper. She frowned as she watched him a moment, anxiously scratching his head and muttering. She had never seen him look like this before. He wasn't just into the game. He was obsessed. "I've created a monster," Olivia thought. It was Christmas morning, but at 2 a.m., the only lights on in the apartment were the glowing embers of the fireplace and the vivid flashes from Michael's laptop screen. The house was quiet, except for the faint clicking of keys and an occasional triumphant whisper from Michael as he navigated through the fantastical and treacherous world of Grudgekeeper, Siege of the Damned. Michael was perched on the edge of the plush living room sofa, his eyes barely blinking, reflecting the screen's eerie light. He was so deeply invested in the game that the line between the living room's cozy Christmas atmosphere and the game's sinister dungeons seemed to blur. With each level he conquered, his whispers grew more frequent. "Gotcha! Take that, and yes!" escaped his lips as he led his digital avatar to yet another victory. In the background, the Christmas tree stood tall and undisturbed, its lights off for the night, waiting for morning to resume its festive twinkle. Wrapped gifts lay beneath it, their contents a mystery. But for Michael, the real adventure was unfolding on his screen, where he was a hero in a realm of shadows and monsters. The clock ticked unnoticed, and the night deepened. Then a soft shuffle of slippers against the hardwood floor signaled Victoria's arrival. She appeared in the doorway, her hair tousled from sleep, wearing a long nightgown that swept over the floor. She rubbed her eyes, squinting at the unexpected sight. "Michael?" she yawned. He didn't hear the soft padding of Victoria's slippers or her soft, sleepy voice. Michael was in the midst of a heated battle, his avatar surrounded by an army of enemies. He leaned closer to the screen, oblivious to the real world, his concentration unbreakable. Victoria stepped closer, a frown creasing her brow. "Michael," she tried again, a bit louder this time. But he remained enveloped in the game, his fingers agile as they danced over the keys. She sighed, half in exasperation, half in amusement. With a few sleepy steps, she positioned herself in front of Michael. Confused, Michael finally tore his gaze from the screen to find Victoria's sleep-blurred figure obstructing his view. "Victoria, why are you up?" he stammered, blinking away the bright colors that lingered in his vision. "It's 2 a.m, Michael. You need to go to bed," Victoria stated, her voice firm, yet lined with the softness reserved for someone you adore despite their absurdities. "But I'm so close to leveling up," Michael protested, his eyes darting back to the screen, as if it held some hypnotic power over him. Victoria couldn't help but laugh, a soft melodic sound that floated above the synthetic sounds of the game. "You're like a child begging for 5 more minutes before bedtime," she chided, a warm smile lighting up her face. "Please, just a few more minutes," Michael pleaded, his tone hopeful. His eyes held a spark of mischief, reminiscent of the youthful excitement Christmas morning once brought. Shaking her head, Victoria replied, "You need your sleep, Michael." Michael looked at her, his sheepish smile acknowledging the absurdity of his late-night gaming session. "All right, you win," he conceded. With a click, the vibrant world of Grudgekeeper faded to black, replaced by the room's soft ambient light. As Victoria turned to head back to bed, a contented silence settled between them. Michael cast a longing glance back at the now dark screen, the temptation to continuing his quest flickering in his eyes. After a moment's hesitation, his resolve firmed, and he went back to his own apartment to go to sleep. Olivia blinked open her eyes to Christmas morning, a soft light filtering through her curtains, promising a day filled with joy. She stretched, a smile curving her lips, as she thought of the day ahead. With a yawn and a satisfying stretch, she swung her legs out of the bed and padded softly toward the living room. The scent of pine and the sound of Christmas music greeted her as she entered. There, nestled in the cozy embrace of the sofa, were Michael and Victoria, laughing together over steaming mugs of hot chocolate, their faces aglow with the twinkling lights of the Christmas tree. Olivia's heart swelled at the sight, a wave of warmth rushing through her. This was the Christmas gift she had always longed for growing up. A moment of pure, unguarded happiness with her parents. A snapshot of the love and peace she had once dreamed of. Victoria's eyes met Olivia's and her smile widened. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," she said, her voice as comforting as the blanket she had draped over her legs. Michael echoed the sentiment, his eyes crinkling with good cheer. "Merry Christmas, Olivia. Come join us." With a joy that bubbled up from within, Olivia responded, "Merry Christmas," as she made her way to the couch. She sank into the cushions beside them, the warmth from the fire crackling in the hearth enveloping her. Together, they shared laughter and stories, the room filled with the kind of easy conversation that only comes with true familiarity and affection. One by one, they opened their presents, each gift unwrapping a new burst of excitement and gratitude. Victoria reminisced about the little traditions she and Olivia had, like stringing popcorn for the tree and singing carols off-key, their laughter mingling with the crackling of the fire. Olivia chimed in with her memories too, her eyes sparkling as she recounted the time they attempted to bake a gingerbread house, only for it to look more like a gingerbread shack. They all laughed, but as the stories continued, Olivia noticed a bittersweet look in Michael's eyes. Michael was indeed happy, his heart full from the tales of past Christmases. Yet there was a twinge of sadness for the moments missed, the years he wasn't there to join in the laughter and create memories with them. To lift the spirits, Victoria suggested, "How about a Christmas movie to get us in the spirit even more?" "That sounds perfect," Michael agreed, the idea of a cozy family moment appealing to him, a chance to make new memories together. Victoria disappeared into the kitchen for a moment and returned with a plate of freshly baked cookies, their sweet aroma filling the room and adding to the festive atmosphere. She placed the plate on the coffee table, and they all helped themselves to the delicious treats. Settling back into the sofa, they picked a classic Christmas movie, the screen coming to life with scenes of snow-covered landscapes and merry jingles. They watched, sometimes commenting on the scenes, sometimes just enjoying the shared experience. As the final credits of the Christmas movie rolled across the screen, accompanied by the soft jingle of holiday music, Olivia stretched and stood up from the cozy nest of cushions and blankets on the couch. "I should get ready to meet my friends," she announced, her voice still warm from the comfort of family time. Victoria nodded, her eyes following Olivia affectionately. "Go have fun, darling," she encouraged with a gentle smile, "and give them our best Christmas wishes." Olivia nodded her own smile, a reflection of her mother's. "Will do, Mom." Michael, still lounging on the sofa, glanced up at Olivia. "Hey, Lib, before you go, could you leave your username and password for the game? I think I'll give it another shot while you're out," he said with a sheepish grin on his face. Victoria chuckled, shaking her head at Michael's newfound obsession. "Can you believe this one?" she said to Olivia, her tone light and teasing. Olivia laughed, amused by her father's unexpected dive into her gaming world. "Sure, Dad," she said, walking over to the end table to jot down her login information on a piece of notepaper. "Here you go, but no getting into trouble on my account, okay?" Handing over the paper, she caught the hint of embarrassment on Michael's face, his cheeks tinged with a soft pink. "Don't worry, I'll be the model player," he promised, taking the paper with a mock-serious nod. "Good," Olivia replied, grinning as she headed out of the room to get ready. "Enjoy the game and don't let the grudge keeper give you too much trouble." With that, Olivia left the room, her laughter echoing behind her, leaving Michael and Victoria in a comfortable silence, the warmth of the family connection filling the room long after the Christmas movie had ended. "Ready, girl?" Olivia asked, fastening her scarf. Polly barked in response, her leash jingling merrily as they stepped out into the crisp winter air. They walked briskly to the curb, and Olivia hailed a taxi, which pulled up with a friendly honk. The driver smiled as they climbed in. "Where to?" he asked. "The corner bean on 5th, please," Olivia replied, scratching Polly behind the ears as the taxi melded with the holiday traffic. Soon they arrived at the small, cute coffee shop, its windows frosted with winter decorations. Olivia paid the driver, and she and Polly made their way inside. The bell above the door jingled cheerily as they entered, and Olivia was immediately struck by the sight of her friends already gathered around a large table, their laughter reaching her ears like a welcome melody. "I'm the last one?" Olivia exclaimed, a mock frown on her face as she approached, Polly trotting happily alongside her. Zach Colston looked up with a smile. "Not quite. Steve's still missing in action, so you're off the hook," he said, winking. One by one, her friends chimed in with warm Merry Christmas greetings, the room echoing with the sounds of a reunion long overdue. Olivia's eyes met Chris's, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. They shared a look, laden with unspoken words and complex emotions, before both shyly looked away, skipping the hug they might have shared under different circumstances. Just then, Sven's eyes lit up as he spotted Polly. "Hey, there's the star of the show," he exclaimed, bending down to welcome the enthusiastic pup. The friends gathered around, each taking a turn to pet Polly, their faces softening with affection. The little dog reveled in the attention, her tail wagging like a metronome set to the tempo of happiness. Lena nudged Olivia, breaking her from the comfortable lull of conversation. "Hey, Olivia, you thirsty? Want something hot to drink?" Olivia turned to Lena, about to reply, when she noticed her friend's red nose. "Lena, your nose is all red. Are you feeling all right?" Olivia asked, her voice tinged with concern. Lena touched her nose self-consciously and chuckled. "Yeah, I'm a bit under the weather, but it's nothing serious. I've just been loading up on tea," she said with a sniffle. "Tea sounds good. Let's get some," Olivia suggested, and together they approached the counter to place their orders. Returning to their table with steaming cups in hand, they were greeted by the excited voices of their friends, sharing their Christmas morning finds. The group's dynamic shifted as Steve hurried in, his arrival marked by the bells above the door and a burst of cold air. "Merry belated Christmas, everyone," he announced, holding up a box of Christmas cookies as a peace offering for his tardiness. Once the coffee shop escapade had wound down, the group decided to hit the bustling streets for some post-Christmas shopping. Amidst the sea of holiday sales and the hum of shoppers, Olivia and Chris's paths kept unintentionally crossing between clothing racks and store displays. Each accidental brush or near touch sent them skittering in opposite directions, their movements awkward, a silent dance of hesitance and unsaid words. Their awkward ballet continued until Steve's voice cut through the tension. "Guys, how about we head out for dinner? I know this amazing Chinese place," he suggested, enthusiasm lighting up his face. The group readily agreed, welcoming the change of scenery and the promise of a shared meal. They made their way to the restaurant, chatting and joking. The group settled around a large round table, a lazy Susan in the middle filled with dishes of dumplings, crispy duck, and sweet and sour chicken. Laughter and chatter filled the air as they passed plates around, each person eagerly sharing stories between mouthfuls of food. Olivia, seated between Zach and Millie, found herself stealing glances across the table where Chris sat. Each time their eyes met, a silent spark passed between them, a mix of longing and confusion that they both quickly smothered by turning their attention back to the conversation at hand. Chris, for his part, was equally caught up in this dance of looks. He listened to Sam's recount of a Christmas prank gone wrong, only to look up and find Olivia's eyes on him. He'd offer a quick, shy smile before diving back into his plate, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Millie, ever observant, caught the exchange of stolen glances between the two. She leaned toward Olivia, her voice low and teasing. "Those glances could light up the whole city, you know." "Why do I keep looking at him?" Olivia scolded herself each time her gaze involuntarily flickered towards Chris. He probably thinks I'm so weird. She could feel her stomach twist into knots, a swarm of butterflies taking flight every time their eyes met. It was like a magnet was pulling her towards him, and she was powerless to resist it. Chris found himself in unfamiliar territory, which was saying something considering he prided himself on always knowing the lay of the land. Every time he looked over at Olivia, he felt a mix of emotions that he couldn't quite sort out. As the lively group made their way out of the Chinese restaurant, Steve bounced on his heels and clapped his hands together with a bright idea. Hey, why don't we all go catch a movie? There's gotta be something good playing on Christmas Day. The suggestion was met with a chorus of approval, everyone buzzing with the possibility of ending their Christmas festivities at the cinema. But Lena's practical voice cut through the excitement. Wait, guys, what about Polly? They don't allow dogs in the theater, she reminded them, gesturing toward Olivia's cheerful pup. A thoughtful look crossed Millie's face, a spark of mischief in her eyes. She saw the hesitation in Olivia and Chris's body language, the unspoken words that hung between them like strings of silent Christmas lights. I've got it, Millie exclaimed. Why don't the rest of us go to the movies? And Chris, can you stay here to keep Olivia and Polly company? Olivia's heart skipped a beat, and Chris's face registered surprise, both caught off guard by Millie's forthright matchmaking. They opened their mouths to protest, but before a single word could escape, Millie was rallying the group, steering them toward the theater. Sounds like a plan, let's go, everyone, Millie declared. And just like that, the friends were moving away, leaving Olivia and Chris standing in a quiet bubble of sudden solitude. They turned to each other, an awkward silence enveloping them, the noise of their friend's departure fading into the distance. Chris rubbed the back of his neck, looking down at Polly, who wagged her tail, blissfully unaware of the tension. So, looks like it's just us, Chris said, trying to sound casual, but the flutter in his stomach betrayed him. Olivia forced a smile, her mind racing. Yeah, just us. She echoed, her voice a touch too high to be as nonchalant as she'd intended. What the hell do I do now? Olivia wondered. Olivia and Chris stood rooted to the spot, their eyes lingering on the backs of their friends as they disappeared into the movie theater. The gap left by their absence was filled with an awkward silence, with neither of them quite sure how to navigate this unplanned solitude. The two shuffled their feet, the winter air suddenly feeling colder as they grappled for words. Chris opened his mouth to speak, but Olivia was quicker, her voice a little too bright as she commented on the weather. I thought it'd be colder, like Paris, but it's not bad. All Chris could muster in reply was, yeah. They both knew it was a flimsy attempt at conversation. Their uncomfortable bubble was burst by an older couple passing by, their hands entwined, their faces creased with smiles. What a lovely young couple you make, the woman cooed, nodding at Olivia and Chris. Oh no, we're not. Olivia's words tumbled out in a rush, her face flushing with embarrassment. Chris's response was just as jumbled. Yeah, we're just friends. There was a flicker of something in Chris's eyes, a hint of disappointment, as Olivia vehemently denied the couple's assumption. But the moment passed quickly as the man handed Chris a camera. Would you mind taking a picture of us? He asked, his tone expectant. Chris, still a little dazed, nodded and took the camera. The couple posed in front of the theater, beaming at each other before sharing a tender kiss for the photo. Chris snapped the picture, the image of their easy affection, a sharp contrast to the tension he felt standing beside Olivia. Handing the camera back, Chris managed a polite smile. But as the couple thanked him and walked away, their laughter a soft echo, the awkwardness resettled between him and Olivia, heavier than before. They started walking, their pace slow, the silence stretching out like the shadow of the evening. Chris glanced at Olivia, her expression pensive, her hands tucked into her coat pockets. He wanted to say something, anything to break the quiet, to bridge the gap, but the words wouldn't come. As they walked, the rhythmic click of Polly's paws on the sidewalk punctuated the silence. Olivia found herself trapped in a whirlwind of thoughts, each one fluttering like a nervous butterfly in her stomach. Should I say something? Her mind raced, searching for the right words, the kind that could leap over the awkwardness between them. Anything I say is just going to sound silly, isn't it? It just won't be right. It won't be what he's looking for. Olivia stole a glance at Chris, his profile highlighted by the streetlights they passed under. Say something about the game, maybe? No, he doesn't care about games. Olivia's thoughts were a tangle, and the more she tried to straighten them out, the more knotted they became. Why is this so hard? She internally sighed, as Polly trotted ahead, oblivious to her owner's inner turmoil. Olivia took a deep breath. You can do this, Olivia thought. Chris's footsteps slowed until they came to a complete halt, prompting Olivia and Polly to stop and look back at him. Polly tilted her head, sensing the change in mood, while Olivia watched Chris with apprehension. I need to apologize, Chris said, his voice breaking the silence that had settled between them. He turned to face Olivia fully, his expression serious. For what happened in Paris, I was drunk and I said things that I shouldn't have, things that were unfair to you. He paused, the remorse evident in his eyes as he struggled to find the right words. I called you selfish and unlovable, he continued, the shame of the memory making his voice waver. I was projecting. I was the one feeling unlovable and acting selfishly, and I took that out on you. Olivia's heart ached at the raw honesty in his voice and the way he held himself accountable. She watched as he took a deep breath before adding, I don't think you're selfish or unlovable, Olivia, not at all. The words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, Olivia felt as if the world had narrowed down to just the two of them under the glow of the streetlights. Thank you, Chris, she said softly, her eyes meeting his. That means a lot. Their gazes locked, and something unspoken passed between them. It was as if Chris's apology had lifted a weight from both their shoulders, the tension that had been building now beginning to dissipate. They both exhaled in unison, a mutual release of the breath they hadn't realized they'd been holding. When the air cleared between them, Olivia and Chris continued their walk. This time, they found themselves drifting a little closer to each other, their steps syncing up as Polly led the way with a happy trot. As they walked, Chris broached a subject that still seemed to gnaw at him. I can't shake off how jealous I felt back in Paris when you teamed up with Jeremy for the Knife God competition, he confessed, a hint of old frustration surfacing in his voice. I've mentioned it before, but seeing you two together got under my skin. He let out a small, self-deprecating chuckle. I'm usually pretty confident and composed, you know? That whole thing with Jeremy really threw me off. Olivia let out a sigh, a mixture of amusement and exasperation coloring her tone. Chris, we've been over this. Jeremy is practically my brother, she said, her voice firm yet gentle, trying to put his unfounded fears to rest once and for all. She turned to face him, ensuring he caught every word. I have zero feelings for Jeremy, okay? None. It would be like falling for my cousin or something, totally gross, she emphasized, hoping to dispel his jealousy once and for all. Chris ran a hand through his hair, a sheepish grin spreading across his face as he shook his head. I know. I guess I just needed to hear it again, he admitted, feeling a little foolish now that he heard how clear Olivia was. Chris fell into a contemplative silence. His previous words seemed to have unlocked a door to deeper introspection. Olivia watched him from the corner of her eye, her curiosity piqued. She could almost see the wheels turning in his head, each thought passing over his face. He let out a heavy sigh, breaking the silence. Olivia, what am I to you? Chris's voice was hesitant but earnest. I get that our families arranged this, but for me, It's more than that." He paused, looking at her with the vulnerability that she rarely saw in him. "I know I have deep feelings for you, and it really hurts not knowing where I stand," he admitted, his gaze searching hers for an answer. Olivia's steps slowed to a stop, her mind suddenly a whirlwind of emotion and thought. She looked at Chris, his eyes reflecting the same uncertainty that churned inside her. In her head, Olivia's thoughts raced. "I do love him," she admitted to herself, the truth of the statement resonating deep within her. "But am I ready to love him? To dive into that depth? It's too soon, isn't it?" Her heart ached with the complexity of it all, the desire to leap tempered by the fear of the fall. She knew Chris meant more to her than she was prepared to confront, a realization that both thrilled and terrified her. "I need time," she pleaded internally, hoping somehow Chris could understand the silent battle she was fighting within herself. Olivia met Chris's gaze, her eyes swimming with a mix of affection and apprehension. "I care about you, Chris, a lot," she began, her voice steady despite the butterflies doing somersaults in her stomach. "But it's just too soon for me to figure out exactly how I feel." She took a breath, her next words coming out with a sincere plea. "I just need some time," she said, hoping he'd understand her need to navigate the maze of her emotions at her own pace. Chris's expression softened, a gentle nod accompanying his acceptance. "I understand," he said, the corners of his mouth lifted in a half smile, his charm breaking through the seriousness of their conversation. "But I hope you can figure it out soon because it's driving me crazy not knowing." The tension that had built up between them eased with his words, and Olivia found herself smiling, the warmth in her chest spreading at the sight of his earnest expression. They shared a moment then, locked in each other's gaze, the world around them fading into a blur. It was as if time had slowed, allowing them to truly see each other, to acknowledge the connection that neither of them could deny. Chris's eyes suddenly lifted, his attention drawn upward. A slow, knowing smile spread across his face as he caught sight of something above him. Curious, Olivia followed his gaze, and her eyes widened as she spotted the mistletoe dangling innocently from the doorframe of a nearby shop they had stopped in front of. Her cheeks flushed a deep crimson, and she turned back to find Chris looking at her with a playful, expectant glint in his eyes. He leaned in slowly, the flirty challenge in his eyes clear as he closed the distance between them, hopeful for the kiss that tradition beckoned under the mistletoe. Olivia's heart raced, a smirk playing on her lips. She wanted to close her eyes and lean in, to feel the warmth of his lips, but a stronger part of her held back. At the last moment, she turned her head, offering her cheek instead. Chris's lips brushed softly against her skin, the touch sending a shiver down her spine, despite the disappointment that clouded his eyes when he pulled back. Olivia met his gaze, her voice gentle. "It's just not time yet, Chris. I'm not ready," she said, her words a tender brushstroke in the air between them. Chris worked to swallow his disappointment, the effort visible in the tightness around his eyes. "I understand," he said, his voice rough around the edges but sincere. He offered her a small smile. Feeling a swell of gratitude for his patience, Olivia reached out and took his hand, squeezing it lightly. "Thank you, Chris," she said, her eyes shining with a mixture of affection and respect for the man who stood before her, willing to give her the time she needed. Olivia's eyes brightened with a sudden recollection. "Oh, I still have your sweater from Paris," she blurted out, eager to shift away from the intensity of the moment. Chris tilted his head, a relaxed smile on his face. "You don't have to give it back," he assured her, his tone light. "That's crazy," Olivia protested, her practical side surfacing. "It's a really nice sweater, and you should have it back." He shook his head, his smile widening. "Whatever's mine is yours, Olivia. Keep it for as long as we're in each other's lives," Chris said, his voice soft but firm, conveying a sense of belonging and generosity. His words wrapped around Olivia like a warm embrace, causing her heart to flutter. She found herself getting lost in his gaze. Chris's breath hitched slightly, his heart pounding with the hope that this could be their moment. He leaned in closer, driven by the pull of his heartstrings. But Olivia stepped back, her hands raised in a gentle hold. "Chris, I just said we're not ready," she reminded him, her voice wavering between firmness and regret. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, the frustration clear in his furrowed brow. It's hard when I can't tell when the right time is," he confessed, his words tumbling out in a rush. In his frustration, Chris let slip his deeper feelings of uncertainty. "I feel like you'll never be ready, like you're just stringing me along," he said, the word sharper than he intended. Olivia recoiled, stung by the accusation. "That's not fair, Chris. I'm not stringing you along. You're just not being patient," she shot back, her own irritation rising. "And remember our contract?" she added pointedly, her reference to their arranged relationship hanging heavily in the air. At the mention of the contract, Chris's expression hardened, a mix of emotions playing across his face: frustration, disappointment, and a touch of resentment. That damn contract, Chris thought bitterly. Is she trying to drive me insane? Olivia stood there, arms crossed, staring at Chris. She didn't understand why he was so upset. He knew there was a contract in place between the two of them, stating that they would remain engaged up to a certain point. He could pretend as much as he wanted that a contract didn't exist, but he was there when they decided on it, together. On top of that, it was their family who had arranged the relationship in the first place. Olivia knew there would be hell to pay for both of them if they actually decided to break it off. "If you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to talk about it," Olivia huffed, "but it doesn't change the facts." Chris stared back at Olivia for a moment. He was so angry at her for ruining what he thought had been a beautiful moment between the two of them, but he was even angrier at himself. Why did this always happen to them? Just when they were starting to get along, something would arise that would send them spiraling again. Chris wished he knew how to get them out of these arguments, but in the moment he felt stuck. If he apologized, it would be admitting that he had done something wrong, and he didn't think it was wrong, after kissing the girl he loved, to get upset that she brought up the fact that their relationship was simply transactional. Maybe Sven was right. Maybe Chris should just try to be honest. He could tell Olivia that she had hurt his feelings and try to explain why he had reacted the way he did. But looking at Olivia now, standing there so proud, looking at him with her cool, steady gaze, he knew he didn't have the courage to do that. "Let's just go. I'm getting cold standing here." Chris looked around as if an idea of a place would come to him. "Where do you want to go next?" Olivia pouted slightly. She was equally disappointed that their moment had been ruined. She thought Chris was completely overreacting, and she wished he could just admit that. "I don't know, I'm tired. I think I'm just going to go home." "Okay." Chris tried not to look upset. "I can get a car to pick us up." "It's fine, I'll just grab a taxi," Olivia insisted. Chris scoffed. "In what world do you think a New York City taxi is letting you step foot in their car with her?" Chris pointed to Polly, a small smile creeping at his lips now. Olivia looked down at her dog, who smiled goofily back up at her. She had almost forgotten Polly was there. Chris was right. No taxi cab was going to allow a dog as big as Polly in their back seat. "Fine, then we'll walk." Olivia took off down the street, too stubborn to say goodbye to Chris. He let out a small chuckle. Even though he sometimes wished he and Olivia could have an easier time communicating their true emotions, he had to admit that he liked these little games they played. He trotted after Olivia and Polly. "If you're walking, I'm walking." "It's a public street. I can't stop you from walking." Olivia looked down to hide the grin that was threatening to spread across her face. The two of them walked, mostly in silence, for a couple of blocks, occasionally admiring a light display or a well-decorated Christmas tree inside one of the lobbies they passed. Why don't we walk through the park a little? Chris suggested, after an especially aggravating lull in their conversation. It's out of the way, Olivia countered. Come on, it'll be beautiful. We can look at all the skaters on the ice skating rink. Chris knew Olivia loved to watch the skaters swirling around the ice. Olivia fought with her conflicting desires to have a good time with Chris, while also punishing him for his earlier actions. But it was Christmas after all, and Central Park was notoriously beautiful this time of year. Fine, let's go. Olivia turned on her heel, heading toward the park. As they walked through the park, Olivia's annoyance at Chris began to melt away. The entire park was covered in a white blanket of snow. Icicles hung from tree branches, and little lights twinkled from where they'd been strung up over walkways. It looked like a true winter wonderland. When they reached the ice skating rink, they decided to stop for a moment to watch the skaters. Even Polly seemed to enjoy it, yipping excitedly every time she saw one of the advanced skaters jump in the air. I'll be right back, Chris suddenly whispered in Olivia's ear, before running off into the crowd of people also watching the skating rink. Before Olivia could even find the time to be annoyed with him, Chris reappeared through the crowd, holding a steaming cup of hot cocoa with extra whipped cream for Olivia to enjoy. Thank you, she managed to let out, finding herself a little bit surprised at how quickly Chris had managed to turn his mood. As they walked away from the skating rink, Chris held out his hand. Olivia stared at it, wide-eyed. He doesn't actually expect me to hold his hand, does he? Olivia wondered to herself. Chris was certainly feeling extra bold today. But Chris just chuckled. Let me hold Polly so you can finish your cocoa, he explained, obviously reading the surprise on Olivia's face. Oh, she handed Chris Polly's leash. Thanks. They continued to walk through the picturesque winter scene until they reached a small winter carnival that had been set up for the holidays. Walking through, they passed stands hawking mulled cider and offering games like ring toss. Olivia stopped when she saw a line of claw machines set up, filled with stuffed toys depicting different cartoon characters. Chris eyed Olivia. What, are you suddenly dying for a Cartman toy to complete your collection? Olivia turned to Chris, smirking. Do you remember our first actual date when we went to that arcade? Chris couldn't help but feel fluttering in his stomach at hearing Olivia use the word date to describe an interaction with him. He desperately wanted to point it out to her, but he knew doing so would further push her away. I remember. I wanted you to win me a toy from one of the claw machines. Think you can do it now? Olivia cocked an eyebrow at Chris, egging him on. Hold this. He handed Olivia Polly's leash and pulled out his wallet. Chris immediately got to work, beating the machine dollar after dollar as he attempted to maneuver the tricky claw over any of the toys beneath it. Olivia watched, rapt, as Chris came so close over and over, only to have the toy drop from the claw each time. Geez, you really suck at this. I see why you didn't want to play last time, Olivia teased. Even though she was mocking his skills, Chris was happy that they were back to their old dynamic. Maybe teasing one another was their love language. You'll see, I'm going to get one of these plushies this time. I'm manifesting it. Chris stuffed another dollar into the machine. Olivia burst out in laughter. You're manifesting it? Okay, Oprah. The sound of Olivia's laughter made Chris's heart race. He was determined to win her one of these toys. Which one do you want? Chris asked, slowly inching the claw forward. Olivia looked through the sea of cheap stuffed toys, finally pointing to one in the very middle. That one. Chris looked at her. Pikachu? Really? Yes, really, what's wrong with that? Olivia pushed Chris playfully. I just never would have expected that coming from a girl who has the most curated collection of vintage leather bags I have ever seen. Pokemon just doesn't seem like your style. Chris laughed. I contain multitudes. Olivia gave him a snarky little smile. Yes, you do, Chris thought to himself, feeling more infatuated with Olivia with every passing moment. He focused his attention back on the machine, being especially careful with his maneuvering this time. He hovered just above the Pikachu plush, then plunged the claw down, clamping around the stuffed toy's head and pulling it up from the pile. Olivia squealed with delight, and Polly let out a bark. Chris clapped his hands together as the claw released the toy into the slot for collection by the winner. "Let's go," Chris shouted. Getting so caught up, he turned and picked Olivia up off the ground, spinning her in a circle. Olivia was so giddy. She couldn't even be angry with him. He placed her back down, reaching in for the toy and handing it to her like it was a piece of expensive jewelry. "Your prize, mademoiselle?" Olivia took the cheap-looking Pikachu toy and hugged it to her chest. "Thank you. I love it." Olivia looked up at Chris, her eyes sparkling. Looking down at Olivia, Chris wanted nothing more than to kiss her again, but a real kiss this time. To feel her lips on hers, to be able to hold her in his arms. Chris was pretty sure there was no better feeling than that. But he didn't want to push her. He'd already struck out with her once today. He wasn't going to ruin this moment as well. "It's getting late. We should probably head on," he suggested instead. He couldn't help but notice the smallest look of disappointment on Olivia's face when he said that. Did I miss a sign? Chris wondered. Did she actually want me to kiss her this time? As they began to walk, Chris decided to test his luck, carefully placing an arm around Olivia's shoulders. He was pleased when she didn't protest, instead nuzzling into his arm. What should have been a 20-minute walk back to Olivia's apartment from the winter carnival in the park somehow turned into an hour. Although neither would ever admit it to the other, Olivia and Chris had walked purposely slowly in order to prolong their time together. Outside of Olivia's apartment building, Chris and Olivia dawdled, awkwardly smiling at each other like school children with a crush. They shared a few more pleasantries about the weather and school, suddenly growing very self-conscious before they'd completely run out of anything to say. "I should probably go up," Olivia said after a long moment of staring into each other's eyes. Chris reached out and grabbed her wrist. "I don't want you to go." "Chris!" Olivia was startled by the gesture, but not opposed to it. "What has gotten into you today?" I just..." Chris sighed, Sven's words about being honest ringing in his head. "I know it's cheesy, but every time I say goodbye to you, I worry I won't see you again. I think about you all the time, Olivia." Olivia felt her face go hot. She looked down at her wrists and Chris' hand and gently removed it, reaching down instead and intertwining her fingers with his. She leaned into him and whispered, "You'll see me again, I promise." Then, before she could stop herself, Olivia reached up and kissed Chris on the cheek. It was so out of character that all Chris could do was stand there, stunned and silent. Olivia pulled away and giggled when she saw the look on Chris Jones' face. She turned to enter her building, looking back over her shoulder once. "Oh, and thank you for my Pikachu." She entered the building, leaving Chris still standing there, frozen to his spot, grinning like an idiot. Olivia entered the lobby of her building with a bashful smile plastered to her face as she replayed the day's events in her head. But her smile instantly fell as soon as she saw who was there waiting for her. There, sitting in the lobby, looking incredibly impatient, was none other than Jack and Bruno Johnson. Olivia braced herself as she stood in front of her grandfather and uncle. They stood when they saw her enter, and immediately Polly adopted a defensive stance, emitting a low growl. Olivia patted the dog's head, letting her know they were not in danger, at least not yet. Jack Johnson barged over to Olivia, his face contorted with anger. "Where in the world have you been, young lady? We've been waiting 3 hours." "How on earth was I supposed to know that?" Olivia sniped. Jack Johnson was completely taken aback. How dare she speak to him that way? No matter what kind of relationship he had with his granddaughter, he was still her elder and the patriarch of the Johnson family. She had no right to use that kind of sass with him. "We called you multiple times," Bruno chimed in, seeing that his father was close to completely losing his temper. "We left messages, too." "I didn't get them." Olivia reached into her pocket for her phone and pulled it out. She tried to turn it on and found it had died. She'd been so busy enjoying her time with Chris, she hadn't even noticed. "I guess my phone is dead." "That's incredibly irresponsible to walk around with a dead phone," Jack Johnson admonished her. He was adamant about blaming his granddaughter no matter what. "You don't realize how privileged you are carrying around a miniature computer in your pocket. In my day, we didn't even have a home phone." Olivia had to fight herself not to roll her eyes. She couldn't believe what a stereotype of an old man her grandfather was. "I'm sorry I didn't answer my phone, Grandpa." Olivia's apology was monotone and clearly not heartfelt, which only caused Jack to become angrier. "You have no remorse that you've left your uncle and me waiting here all this time, do you?" Jack Johnson moved closer to Olivia, trying to use his height over her as an intimidation factor. "If you were waiting that long, why didn't you just go upstairs?" Olivia cocked an eyebrow quizzically. "You could have checked in on Dad. I'm sure he's been up there this entire time." Bruno and Jack Johnson exchanged a look. Olivia knew very well there was no chance in hell that her father would have welcomed his father and brother into his apartment. In fact, they were lucky that he hadn't left at all while they had been there. Who knows what Michael would have done if he had come down into the lobby and seen Bruno and Jack. Olivia knew they were very well aware that it wouldn't have been a warm welcome, and she knew that's exactly why they hadn't gone upstairs. Jack stuttered for a moment. He couldn't admit what clearly they all already knew. "We came to see you specifically, Olivia," Bruno added. "The doorman told us you had gone out and would be back soon." "Great, well, now I'm back," Olivia answered coolly. She was tired of going in circles with them and just wanted to go upstairs and change out of her wet boots. "Your uncle told me he invited you to dinner with him, and you had the nerve to turn him down." Jack Johnson wagged his finger in Olivia's face. "What is your excuse for that behavior?" Olivia shrugged. "I was busy." She was getting bored of this pussyfooting around the bigger issues. They all knew where they stood with each other, and it was silly to try to pretend they were some kind of loving family. "You were busy." Jack Johnson was seething with anger now, his eyes narrowing as he stared at the stuffed Pikachu in Olivia's arm. "Clearly you've been busy fooling around. You don't take your family seriously. You are embarrassing yourself." Olivia felt her anger rise up. "I'm not embarrassing myself. I'm embarrassing you." She glanced up briefly at the ceiling. The lobby of her building featured a prominent brass chandelier, designed by a famous architect who used to live in the building. Olivia thought about how she could simply loosen the screws with her mind and drop the chandelier directly down onto Jack Johnson's head. It would be so simple, and there was no way they'd be able to trace it to her. She knew that Jack Johnson was her grandfather, and technically it was wrong to kill your grandfather. But she also knew that Jack Johnson never wished the best for her. She remembered how little he thought of her in her past life. He had looked at her like she was something he had stepped in that got stuck to the bottom of his shoe. At least in this life, he had some level of respect for her, even if he hated her. She was so close to just focusing on the chandelier. She was so tempted to let it drop. But then she thought better of it. She had no idea where the Johnson family's will stood at this moment, and she couldn't risk Rachel and Monica getting control of all the family's assets. No, she would have to wait to make her move. She had to make sure that everything was in place for her own family before she made any kind of decision. Olivia and Jack Johnson glared at each other for a moment. After a long while, Olivia let out a deep breath. "All right, grandfather, you clearly came here to tell me something, so go ahead." Olivia crossed her arms over her chest. "Since you refused to answer your uncle's calls, and the one time he was able to reach out you rejected his offer to dinner, I've come here to personally request your attendance at a lunch with us. Is that more agreeable than a whole dinner?" Jack Johnson looked to Bruno, who nodded along with his father. If I come, will you agree to be civil? Olivia already knew the answer to this, but wanted to test her grandfather. He sneered at her. Just meet us at the Carlisle Hotel till tomorrow. We already have a reservation at Jolene, so please do not be late. Olivia mulled this over in her head. She wanted nothing less than to have to sit through a meal with her grandfather and uncle. But she knew that she was going to have to talk to Jack before the release of her game. There was too much riding on its success, and she had too many fears that he would sabotage it. She might as well get it out of the way now. Fine, I'll be there. Olivia grimaced as the corner of Jack Johnson's mouth curled upward into a devious smile. We're looking forward to it. And with that, Jack and Bruno turned and left the lobby. Olivia shivered as they passed by her. Come on, girl. Olivia pulled at Polly's leash. Let's go up. Polly, who had clearly gotten bored during the standoff between Olivia and her family members, had laid down to take a nap on the lobby floor. But now seeing Olivia ready to go, Polly hopped up to her feet, eagerly making her way to the elevator. Upstairs, Olivia made sure to take her boots off in the hall, having Polly wipe her paws thoroughly on the mat outside the door. Once they were both sufficiently dry, she put her key in the door and turned the knob. Mom? Olivia called out into the apartment. I'm home. Olivia waited for her mother's reply as she took off her coat and gloves. After a moment, there was still no answer. Mom! Olivia called out again, a twinge of rising panic in her voice. Still, there was no answer. Olivia's mind began to race. What if Jack and Bruno had only been there as a distraction? What if they had sent someone up to hurt Olivia's parents? She threw off the rest of her winter gear and rushed down the hall into the apartment, Polly chasing after her. Just before entering the living room, Olivia heard the familiar sound of tinny music playing. Mom? She asked again, this time more confused than worried. She stepped into the living room to find her mother, sitting at the table with Olivia's laptop, frantically pressing the keys, while her father leaned over, gesticulating wildly at the screen. No, not that way, not that way! He shrieked playfully, and Victoria let out a small scream. I don't know how to turn around, Victoria responded, giggling at her own terrible gaming skills. Olivia stood there, taking in the scene. It seemed her mom and dad had spent the entire day playing her video game. She guessed that they had taken turns since Michael had been glued to the game before, and it now seemed he was trying to teach Victoria. Well, what is this? Olivia laughed, leaning against the doorframe as she continued to watch her parents goofing off. Hi, sweetie, Victoria called, taking her eyes off the screen for just long enough that something terrible happened on screen. Be careful, Vicky! Michael shouted, and Victoria let out another shriek before they both broke out into laughter. You should play again. I'm not as good as you are at this. Victoria attempted to switch places with Michael, but he gently thrust her back down onto the seat. No way, this is how you get better. He grinned at Victoria. Besides, you're doing way better than you think you are. Olivia thought she caught her mom blushing slightly, but it was hard to tell with the colors from the game reflecting off her face. So did you have fun with your friends, Liv? Michael asked, looking between Olivia and the game so as not to miss anything. Yeah, I really did. Olivia thought about the day she had, how she had actually kissed Chris Jones, even if it was on the cheek, how they had walked through the park, how he had put his arm lovingly around her. How she had felt in that moment she never wanted the day to end. She squeezed the stuffed Pikachu to her chest as she thought about it. Oh, I'm so glad, Victoria called out, letting a small shriek escape her lips as a bad guy came tumbling towards her on screen. Use your shield! Press Q! Michael shouted, pointing to the correct button on the keyboard. I'm trying, Victoria insisted. After defeating whatever villain was in front of her, she turned half her attention back to Olivia. You have such lovely friends. I'm so happy you were able to spend the holiday together. Michael reached back behind him for a half-empty glass of wine. That's when Olivia noticed they had gone through almost an entire bottle. Do you want any more, Vicky? Michael began pouring wine into Victoria's empty glass before she even answered, draining the dregs of the bottle. "Sure," Victoria answered chipperly. "Oh, what do I do here?" "You have to jump over the log." Michael took a sip of his wine and then reached for the keyboard. "Here, I'll show you." Victoria let Michael take over, glad to have a chance to grab the glass of wine Michael had just poured her. She watched the game, rapt, as Michael explained a series of difficult moves. Olivia smiled as she watched her parents. Normally, it might bother a child to see their parents slightly drunk and completely ignoring them. But in this case, Olivia was just happy to see her parents getting along so well. Besides, if this were any indication of how well her game was going to do, then she was stoked. "Well, I think I'm going to go to bed," Olivia announced, ready to give her parents some more time alone. But Victoria perked up suddenly, turning to Olivia. "Bed? What time is it?" She looked at the clock and saw that it was already just past 10 p.m. "How did it get so late?" Victoria stood, and Michael paused the game, standing slowly himself. "I guess I better get going then." He hesitated a moment, secretly hoping Victoria would invite him to stay, but it seemed the spell had been broken. "Have a good night," she answered, quickly busying herself with tidying up the room. "Why don't I take Polly tonight?" Michael suggested. "I can take her out for one last walk before bed." "Thanks, Dad." Olivia scratched Polly's head before the dog trotted happily over to Michael. "Well, good night then." Michael glanced at Victoria, but she didn't look up from the couch where she was busily rearranging cushions. Michael walked out, feeling dejected, and Olivia sighed. She was sorry she had been the catalyst for ending her parents' fun. She couldn't worry about that now, though. She had to get her sleep so she was alert for tomorrow's meal with her grandfather and uncle. After all, she knew that whatever he had up his sleeve, it would mean trouble for her. Even though Olivia knew that this lunch meeting was a trap, she still dressed to impress and arrived on time. She greeted the restaurant host and followed him to the private room that had been reserved. Ready to walk in with a smile. Olivia psyched herself up as she pushed open the door. To her surprise, the room was empty. Olivia frowned at the empty table and chairs. She could hear the jazz playlist coming through a speaker in the ceiling. This is definitely the right room. Olivia checked her phone and confirmed she was on time, and they were officially late. "I'll give it 10 minutes. She took a seat at the table and set her things down. She checked her email and then scrolled through the news and social media. Olivia's phone alarm announced that the 10 minutes was up. "Guess I'm off the hook." Olivia shrugged and stood up to leave. Elsewhere, in a secret location, hidden camera footage showed Olivia walking out of the private restaurant room. The glow of the monitor shone on Bruno Johnson and Jack Johnson's faces. Bruno turned to Jack. "Dad, she's leaving." "Bah, she couldn't even bother to wait longer than 10 minutes? What a princess." Jack snorted. "Get in there and tell her to go back and keep waiting." All right. Bruno got up from his seat and hurried out. 10 minutes, Jack grumbled to himself. He looked back at the room Olivia had left, empty, and shook his head. "This little girl dares to disrespect me. She has no idea who she's dealing with." Back in the restaurant, Olivia waited for the elevator. Just as she was about to get in, Bruno appeared breathless. "Olivia, wait a second," Bruno called out. Olivia looked up to see Bruno looking a little harried. She smiled with the smile she'd prepared back when she first walked in. "Uncle Bruno, what's going on?" Well, you see," Bruno stumbled. "Don't bother trying to make excuses for him," Olivia shrugged. "If Grandpa doesn't want to see me, he should just cancel instead of being a no-show." "That's not it at all. Of course he wants to see you." Bruno smiled apologetically. "Let's go back to the room he reserved. He's just running late, but he'll be here soon. He's a very busy man, as you know." Bruno's face turned sad. The burden of the entire company fell to him, and he's just never been the same. And now, as he gets older and older, he struggles. Olivia saw right through Bruno's excuses. Of course. But if you know that Grandpa is struggling so much, I would think you might start helping him more. Olivia smiled pleasantly. You don't have to stay in London all the time, right? And New York is your home. I think Grandpa really needs you, even if he doesn't say so. He shouldn't be handling everything himself right now. Bruno's eyes widened in surprise, and he opened his mouth to say something, but couldn't think of what. He thought making Olivia feel guilty was going to work, but instead she had turned it around on him, and he looked like the guilty one. How did she do that? The elevator returned and the doors opened. Tell Grandpa not to worry about it today. I know he's busy. Olivia smiled graciously. Tell him when he's less busy, he knows where to find me. Olivia turned and stepped into the elevator. Olivia, wait! Bruno urged, sticking his arm out to block the doors from closing. Hey, what are you doing? Olivia asked with a little alarm. Bruno knew he was out of his depth and pulled his arm back. Never mind, I was just kidding around, Bruno said sheepishly. Olivia raised an eyebrow. He thinks he can just stop me from leaving? Big mistake, Bruno. Big mistake. Olivia smiled sweetly at him, tilting her head inquisitively. Kidding around? Is kidding around what you were doing with Rachel? Bruno's expression froze. Olivia knew she hit a nerve hinting at Bruno's affair with Rachel. She considered taking Bruno's advice to wait a little longer. Sticking around to find out what Jack had planned for this little get-together would at least make this trip worth my while. She heaved an exaggerated sigh and rolled her eyes. Whatever, I'll wait for Grandpa, let's go. She breezed past Bruno and walked back to the private room. She didn't need to see Bruno's face to know that he was fuming as he followed behind her. Olivia entered the private room again and took the same seat as when she first walked in. Bruno followed after her and sat in a chair across from Olivia without saying a word. Olivia looked around the private room. It was on the larger side and seemed a bit over the top for just the three of them. She took out her phone and scrolled, ignoring Bruno fidgeting and fuming in the awkward silence. After another 10 minutes, the door opened and Jack Johnson slowly walked in. Dad! Bruno stood up. Grandpa! Olivia nodded as she put down her phone and stood as well. They both waited until Jack made his way to the chair at the head of their table before sitting back down. I'll let them know we're ready, Bruno said. Jack grunted his approval, and Bruno promptly left to find their waiter. Olivia and Jack were alone in the room. Jack remained stone-faced. Olivia stared back at him, looking unbothered. If he doesn't say anything, I'm not going to cave and say anything either. They both sat there in silence all the way until Bruno returned. Bruno noted the silence. Have a busy day today, Dad? Bruno asked casually as he sat down to make conversation. Yes, no thanks to you, Jack snorted coldly. My useless son. He laughed. Olivia remained aloof and didn't say anything. You get funny when you're tired, Dad. Bruno tried to laugh it off. I keep telling you to get more rest. I'm not dead yet, Jack barked. You can stop talking to me like I'm on my deathbed. At that moment, the waiter arrived with bread and a carafe of water. He promptly left and closed the door behind him. Grandpa, have some water, Olivia offered. She picked up the carafe and poured some water into Jack's glass without saying more. Jack looked at Olivia sitting calmly across from him and frowned even deeper. How can she disrespect me so? She says nothing at all, acting completely oblivious. If she thinks she can play dumb with me, I will not have it. Bruno cracked under the tense silence and cleared his throat. Olivia, why don't you just apologize to your grandfather? He's obviously upset. Apologize? Olivia asked with a feigned, confused expression. I don't want her apology. Jack growled and glared at his water. You see? See what you've done? Bruno gestured at Jack's scowl. Olivia sighed and poured herself some water. She picked up her glass and looked across the table at Jack. Grandpa, I'm sorry. Huh. Jack grunted, barely acknowledging her. When I got here, there was no one here, and I waited 10 minutes before leaving. Bruno caught me at the elevator and told me to keep waiting. I know you're very busy, so I should have been more patient. I'm sorry. Olivia casually took a sip of her water. I'm telling you, you're gonna like the water. No! Jack couldn't contain himself. What kind of game is she playing? She's not stupid. She knows that's not what she needs to be sorry for. Before you get too worked up, I have more to say. I know what this is really about, Olivia added. Jack and Bruno looked at each other, unsure of what to expect. Olivia took a breath and adopted a serious expression. Grandpa Jack, I know that you're very busy, but we all know that you're going to need to find a successor for the family business. Part of why you're so busy is no one has stepped up. This isn't easy to say, but someone has to. If Bruno took on more of the responsibility that he was supposed to, you wouldn't have so much on your plate. Bruno should be the one taking better care of you, with the business and personally. Jack and Bruno appeared to be stunned in silence, so much so that Olivia couldn't even hear any thoughts in their heads. It was as silent as when she was waiting alone in the empty room. Olivia ignored their silence and carried on. Honestly, Bruno, I don't blame Grandpa for being upset with you. I have to be the one to talk some sense into you, and I'm not even an adult yet. What's wrong with this picture? Finally, Jack's words returned to him. What nonsense is this? Jack snapped, slamming the table with his hand. How dare you speak this way to your uncle, my youngest son? You've been disrespectful this entire time. I've had enough. Olivia pretended to be puzzled and raised her eyebrows, eyes wide. Did I say anything that wasn't true? That's besides the point, Jack snarled. You're twisting things around. He is not to blame. Twisting things around? How so? Which part? Olivia furrowed her brow and blinked to look perplexed. Bruno has used his talents in other ways. He's been doing important work in London on behalf of the Johnson family. Jack defended Bruno. I must be mistaken, then. Olivia shook her head. I thought you had called me here today to have an intervention with Bruno. Apparently I was wrong. Indeed, Jack snarled. Olivia remained unfazed. What is this really about, then? Clearly I'm way off base. She poured herself some water. You know damn well what this is about, Jack hissed. I'm afraid I don't. Olivia shrugged innocently and set the carafe of water back down. This is all very over my head. Why don't you just speak plainly and tell me whatever it is you really want to say? No more insinuations. Jack's face turned red with anger. You want blunt? Fine. You manipulated your father into running away from his home, and you all abandoned your responsibilities. Do you still dare to deny it? Jack pointed his finger at Olivia accusingly. The waiter returned once again with all of their plates on a tray. Who's hungry? He said cheerfully. Jack and Bruno glared at the waiter, who shrank with regret and quickly set the plates on the table. Olivia felt for the waiter, but couldn't help being amused at his incredibly unfortunate timing. Olivia picked up her fork and stabbed a piece of her bow tie pasta. She chewed it thoughtfully and swallowed it. May I respond? Olivia asked calmly. You must. Jack growled angrily. Olivia, you really should apologize to your grandfather, Bruno said nervously. I don't have a problem with apologies, but it depends on what they're for. Olivia took another sip of water. Grandpa, maybe you're not remembering some things clearly. It's all right, I'll jog your memory. Jack scowled at Olivia and opened his mouth to argue, but Olivia kept talking. It's true. My dad didn't make a smooth exit from the Johnson mansion. Olivia conceded. That day, he probably couldn't have been more disruptive. I don't disagree. But why did he leave? Wasn't it about Uncle Bruno? She looked right at Uncle Bruno, who choked on his food in a panic. Don't you know what Uncle Bruno did? Olivia asked with disdain. If you want someone to apologize for my dad walking out, I don't think I'm the one that needs to. You speak to your uncle with respect, Jack scolded. Grandpa, how else do you expect me to speak to him? Olivia looked back at Jack, unintimidated. Did my uncle help you after Dad left? Did he step in to manage the Johnson family business? As I said, Bruno manages the London branch of the business. Jack blustered. Your father was responsible for the headquarters in New York. He is supposed to be the leader of the Johnson family. He enjoyed all the glory of being in the Johnson family, and he should have shouldered the responsibility that was his. Olivia smiled coolly. The glory of the Johnson family? Really? Jack blinked, trying to understand her meaning. She seemed to have the upper hand, but he couldn't understand why. Let's make one thing clear. Olivia tapped the table with her finger. The glory of the Johnson family will always be yours and Uncle Bruno's. My dad was the CEO, which was always just an empty title, and you know it. What are you talking about? Don't be ridiculous. Jack spluttered. The righteous anger in his eyes shifted to defensiveness. I'm being ridiculous? Olivia put her hand to her chest. Really? Of course, Michael is in charge of the Johnson family business, Bruno argued. Olivia, you must be misunderstanding. Olivia cut him off. No, I think I understand perfectly. Grandpa, just answer me this. My father is the leader of the Johnson family business. But which Johnson family business? Olivia grinned as she took in Jack Johnson's dumbfounded stare. Yeah, that's what I thought. Olivia was ready to go in for the kill. What other Johnson family business is there? Jack Johnson asked, bewildered. He took a sip of his cocktail and wiped his forehead. This meeting was supposed to be my trap, not the other way around. This is completely out of control. Was the biggest branch in New York or in London? Or a third branch? Something kept off the books. Would you know anything about that? Some things just haven't been adding up. Olivia feigned ignorance. She knew they expected her to be stupid and often underestimated her. After all, they thought she would just walk into their lunch invitation trap, completely unaware of any ulterior motives. Olivia didn't enjoy feigning ignorance in moments like these, exactly, but it helped to play the part they expected her to play. You know what they say, give the people what they want. Bruno choked on his drink. The main division is in New York, and there is a branch in London. That's all there is to it. I don't know where you heard about anything else, Olivia, but you must be confused. Okay, Grandpa. You invited me here to accuse me and my dad of being disloyal to the Johnson family and to Uncle Bruno. That hasn't been true, and the proof is in the many, many years of service and loyalty. But what about you and Uncle Bruno? Olivia asked pointedly. Olivia, Bruno interjected, but Olivia did not let him interrupt. Do you swear that you've never gone behind my dad's back? Olivia jabbed. Do you swear on the Johnson family name? How dare you? Jack Johnson slammed his hands on the table. You disrespectful, ungrateful child. You are way over the line. Bruno scolded Olivia. This is outrageous. I don't know where she learned this behavior from. Must have been all those years with her mother. Olivia heard Bruno's disrespectful thoughts about her mother and bristled. Uncle Bruno, you, of all people, are the one to talk. Olivia looked directly into Bruno's eyes. Or do I need to explain why it's not right to sleep with your brother's wife? Shut your mouth, Bruno shouted at Olivia. You've pushed me far enough. There are a lot of things that you don't understand. Olivia quickly read Bruno's mind. How could Olivia know about that? Does Monica know? Even if she did, I don't think Monica would be foolish enough to tell Olivia about something that risky. Besides, who can blame us? Rachel was my fiancée first. I love her. Michael was so easily distracted, and he never really knew what he had right in front of him. All it took was for Victoria to show up, and that was all it took for Michael to abandon Rachel and their children. What does she see in him? Rachel deserves so much better. He instantly started thinking about Rachel, starting with her hair and face and working his way down. Honestly, I don't even want to know. Olivia shook her head. No, thank you, that's more than enough for me. Jack practically had steam coming out of his ears as he sawed away at his steak with his fork and knife. Don't try to distract us with irrelevant, disgusting rumors. How long do you intend to keep manipulating your father? When will you let him return to his rightful place in the Johnson family? Jack demanded. Who says I manipulated him? He's a middle-aged man, he's not a toddler. I'm not some kind of evil genius either. He made up his own mind. Olivia replied calmly. He made the decision to leave. He was tired of being taken for granted, and I don't blame him. Just tell me when he'll return to the business. Jack snapped. I'm sick of talking in circles with you. You think you're very clever, but I know what you're doing. I'm not doing anything, Olivia said firmly. I can't tell you if he would ever go back because it's not up to me. In my honest opinion, it's a miracle he turned out to be a decent man after spending a lifetime with a family like you. Always going behind your family's backs, doing whatever you want just to get ahead, and not caring who gets hurt. If I could tell him what to do, I'd make sure he never returned to work with you ever again. There it is, the truth finally comes out. Jack gasped with a crazed look in his eyes. You admit it. You wanted Michael to leave. If there's anything else on your agenda, you might as well just say it now. The only thing on my agenda is pretty simple, Olivia said coldly. I want my dad to have his freedom. Don't be ridiculous. He was the CEO of the Johnson family business and the heir to the family fortune. Nobody gets more power and freedom than that. You and I both know that's not the whole story. And ever since he's left, there's been a lot more of, what should I call it, discrepancies in the bookkeeping? Jack's jaw was on the floor. How does she know about that? Maybe my dad could come back and take a look, Olivia suggested nonchalantly. No, Jack shouted suddenly. He quickly tried to cover his alarm. No, that won't be necessary. Why not? Isn't he the rightful CEO like you've been saying? Olivia asked innocently. Jack and Bruno looked at each other nervously before Jack turned back to Olivia with a menacing look. I hear you loud and clear, young lady, Jack said in a low, serious voice. Tell us what you want. Name it. You think I want something? Olivia smiled and leaned forward, hands on the table. You think that if I don't get what I want, I might accidentally say something I shouldn't have during an interview on TV or in a press conference or a gaming blog or at a charity event or a... We get it. You're very well-rounded. Bruno scoffed. You're worried about what I might let slip, Olivia continued, and that it would be very bad for the Johnson family. You wouldn't do that. Think of your parents, Jack countered. Olivia laughed. My parents' reputations couldn't be worse already. They have nothing to fear about being tarnished in the public eye. They've already been through it, and they have nothing to lose. What about your reputation, then? Bruno asked, crossing his arms. He thought he had her there. Me? I'm just a kid, and I happen to have made a fun little game. I'm not the Johnson who will be hurt if anything gets out there. Olivia waved her hand dismissively. She smiled at both of them. Looks like this is a problem for you, not me. You're my granddaughter, how dare you? Jack bellowed. I thought you were a rebellious, foolish teenager who was too big for her britches. But now I see you're something else entirely. Olivia smirked to herself. You don't know the half of it, Grandpa. She cleared her throat. Grandpa, I didn't even know I was part of this family until last year. I practically have no relationship with the Johnson family. The only family I owe anything to is my mom and dad. That's who I'm going to protect. You ungrateful snake, Jack spat. I curse the day I ever took you in under my roof. I will not be making that mistake again. Jack's thoughts whirled. Olivia seemed like such a young, naive little girl. It doesn't make any sense. Talking to her now, she still appears as a teenage girl. But the way she speaks is like a cunning adult. Well, nothing we can do about that now, I'm afraid. Olivia smirked and held her head high. Don't forget, unfortunately for you, this snake you're talking to also has the blood of the Park family flowing through my veins. I'm strong, and no insult you throw at me will change that. I also happen to be the apprentice of not one, but 2 chef gods. I don't know what they'd have to say about any of this. Olivia felt a swell of pride as she said these words out loud. For so long she had been labeled the eldest Johnson daughter, and had to feel the weight and expectations of that name. Undoubtedly, her father had felt the same thing his whole life. She was still proud to be her father's daughter, but she felt just as empowered to be her mother's daughter. She came from people who had overcome adversity many times, especially within their own families. If her parents could do it all on their own without enhanced abilities, then she could do anything. Being betrayed by her fiancé and her best friend was still the most painful experience of her life. But once again, she couldn't help feeling grateful that she had a second chance to live up to her potential and help her parents live up to theirs this time around too. I'm my father and my mother's daughter, which makes me Jack's worst nightmare. You dare to threaten me again? Jack gasped. You're bluffing. She's bluffing, Bruno, he said to his son. Am I? Are you sure you want to find out? Olivia leaned in, and the 2 men actually felt afraid. Olivia could see the sweat gathering on their brows. Right at that moment, the waiter walked in, pushing an elegant cart with 4 tiers loaded with desserts. Pardon me, do we have room for dessert? The waiter asked timidly. Bruno and Jack glared at the poor waiter, and once again, Olivia felt bad for the unlucky guy who landed them as customers today. I'll throw the guy a bone. It'll probably drive Grandpa Jack and Uncle Bruno nuts as a bonus. I saved room. Olivia nodded at the waiter. You what? Jack protested, but Olivia ignored him. Can you tell me about the selection? Olivia sweetly asked the waiter. He seemed to be relieved that someone at their table wasn't furious with him for walking in. Yes, miss. On the bottom there we have pastries. Above there's an assortment of chocolates, and up here... Olivia listened and nodded as the waiter walked her through everything on the dessert cart. She enjoyed hearing Jack and Bruno's mental outrage the longer it dragged out. The waiter finished describing each item, and Olivia took a long time to decide what she wanted, and made a show of weighing the different possibilities. I always love a good lava cake, but am I missing out on something new? What do you think, Bruno? Olivia asked in a friendly way, as if they hadn't just been lobbing insults at each other minutes ago. Whatever is faster, Bruno said through his teeth. Olivia shrugged. You're right. I should stick with what I know. Something I can trust, she said as she pointedly caught Jack's and Bruno's gaze. The waiter handed over her choice, and Olivia thanked him as he wheeled the cart away. Stop playing games, Olivia, and just tell us what you want. Bruno turned away from her. Olivia could hear him cursing her in his head. You're a nasty piece of work, aren't you? Oh, don't be too disappointed in me. I'm just following your own advice. Stepping up to take on more responsibility and all of that. Olivia tapped her fingers on the table while she thought, then said, My dad isn't getting any younger, and I'm growing up fast. I might as well take a page out of your book, Grandpa, and do whatever I need to do. Bruno, you're in New York now, so that's covered. I think there's only one thing left to do. Jack and Bruno were on the edge of their seats. How could whatever she had to say next possibly get any worse? Olivia stood and leaned over the table. I'm going to make my dad's departure from the Johnson family public news. Whatever happens to the Johnson business as a result is your problem. Olivia smiled at their stunned faces. She had completely turned the tables on them. Her only question now was, how would they respond?